Well, who did actually introduce the first metal driver and when? We'll answer that later in the video. But before that... Hello classic and vintage golf club fans. You join me here in the nerve centre of the Classic Golf Clubs channel, and today is the first of two videos where I try and tie up some loose ends left over from previous videos. In this first case, it concerns the pioneering Donaldson Manufacturing Company and one of their many innovations, the rangefinder rapier Duralowood. A link to the original video appears above and in the description below. That original video touches briefly on the Duralowood, but at the time I was relying only on photographs, and one question I asked was, did the Duralowood feature the same threaded shaft for attaching the head as the rangefinder rapier irons? That question can now be answered as I've got hold of an example in the shape of a driver, so let's take a look at it. So here is that club. Have a look at the top there, we can see rangefinder rapier and registered trademarks. It's got a red dot which signifies that it's a driver. If we look at the sole, we can see that it is that very cutaway, unusual sole. We've got the model, or the club name there, driver, and the trade name Duralowood registered. And again, we've got the red dot there, so that even if the club is in the bag, you can see the red dot on the base of the club. One of the questions I asked when I was doing the original Donaldson video was about this particular club, and I wasn't sure whether or not it had a replaceable shaft, because one of the features of the rangefinder rapier range was the ability to transfer shafts so that you could experiment with shaft length. And if we look at the actual shaft itself, you can see it's got the original leather grip, and just there we've got the original shaft label, and that's a Donaldson shaft label. Now if I look at the end of the club, I can't see it very well here, so I'll take a photograph of it. We can see that it says 38 inches, which would be the shaft length for one of the long irons. So at some stage in this club's lifetime, the original driver shaft, I think, has been swapped out and replaced with the 38-inch shaft, perhaps so that it could be used by a junior or a lady golfer or even a short adult male golfer. But this wouldn't be the shaft that would normally be used in a driver. You'd expect to see a 43-inch shaft in there. So that does prove, I think, that we do have a threaded hosel here, and the shaft can be screwed in. And when I take the close-up here, you can see on the writing here that it does say to rotate the shaft in a certain direction. And for play, if we're hitting the ball, that's going to be tightening in this direction, which is the opposite way that you would normally tighten a screw up. You would normally screw the shaft in, or the head, you would turn it this way to tighten it up. But if we're doing that to untighten it, we would turn it this way, which would be what the ball would be doing. So every time you hit the club, you will be untightening it. So to ensure that that doesn't happen on a right-handed club, you would have the thread running the opposite way to normal, whereas on a left-handed club, you would have the normal thread. Oh, I think that covers that little look at the club. I thought it might be interesting to just quickly compare this driver with drivers that were available at the time. So I've got here a coated shaft driver. I think it will be 1930s. Looking at the shape of it, we can see it's a plain wood face painted white. Size wise, they're quite similar on the crown. We've then got one here which is a 1970s club, I think. This is a Penfold International, laminated wood, and we can see that that is a similar size as far as the head goes. But finally, just for interest, I bought in a 460cc driver. Some would call this a vintage driver anyway. It's a 909 D2, which was the last modern driver I ever played. So if I put that there as well, you get a real idea of how drivers have changed in the last 30 years. when we started to see titanium appearing, which gave us the ability to have very large heads of lightweight, which meant that they could still be swung at a good speed. To finish, an interesting point about metal-headed woods. One of the claims often made in golf articles and by the golfing media is that the metalwood began with TaylorMade and the Pittsburgh persimmon, which was released in 1979. However, this Donaldson wood is made of metal and is clearly a lot older than that. But even the TaylorMade claim isn't correct, because the first modern stainless steel metalwood was produced by a company called Pinseeker with their Bombshell model released in 1976. But they didn't have the clout to market it, and so it failed. Is then the Donaldson Duralowood the first metalwood? Far from it. As far as I can tell, the first metal-headed driver goes right back to 1895, when the Mills Company of Sunderland, England, who are most famous for their aluminium putters, offered aluminium drivers, brushes and spoons. That's a full 84 years prior to the oft-quoted 1979 of TaylorMade, and just goes to prove that there's nothing new in golf. Well, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.